Well, it was a green day for Tesla fans today. And I've got Bradford Ferguson here to help me celebrate. So, how you doing, Bradford?
Doing good. Yeah, it's quite the relief after a very long, like couple of years for Tesla shareholders. We've had the Fed, raising rates, inflation rearing its head, the war in Ukraine, and all these macro concerns, and um, it seems like it's just going away.
Just going away. Yes, of course. I have
It's
now.
all a dream.
It's all. It was all. Of course, I have my year-end 300, which is only 2 weeks away. I have my year-end 300 and my end of January all-time high 410. Um, and I told everybody that if we could hit the numbers, the 1.8 million and all three legs of the stool, which came true this week, which was this
Mhm.
CPI, the PPI, and the Fed, the bull would be on, risk on would be on. Everything, the bonds would drop like a rock, which they've done, and so there was no reason for the stock not to go back to 410. One last little thing, which I can pull my at the very end, I can say, well, see, this didn't happen. The margins have to at least stay the same or preferably go up one or two in order for us to
Mhm.
hit the all-time high. Am I nuts?
We'll see. We'll see. A little worried about margins with the tax credit on the Model 3 going away. At least starting January 1st.
Right. Well, that won't affect this year, but it might affect thinking. Do you
Now,
believe?
if we get Highland, then everything will be saved with the Model 3. But that's a concern. What I'm hearing from some bulls is that they're starting to come around to the idea that unit growth may not be as good next year. Um, but yesterday I saw a lot of excuses about the tax credit going away for Model 3. People said, "Oh, that's a good thing for the Y, and it's all going to be okay." We don't need to explain away every negative for Tesla.
That's true. That's true. And the Model 3, that's a particular kind of buyer. I'm a Model 3 buyer.
Mm,
My wife has a Model Y, but if I was buying a Tesla, it would be a Model 3. That's just I'm that person, and the price wouldn't really matter. I just like the style better. Um,
yeah.
so I
But
don't know.
like we had a great thing happen since we last saw each other with the Tesla bot video.
Yeah, holy
It's
mackerel.
continued to make great progress. I thought it would make really good progress since AI Day 2, and we've seen a steady drumbeat of progress with Investor Day in March, the update video with the leg and the egg,
Yep.
and the end-to-end performance that we saw in the summer, and then most recently with the Tesla bot that seems very polished. And Tesla's putting their name on it with putting the Tesla name on the chest of Tesla bot. Maybe this is the final form. We don't know, but I'm guessing with this new Tesla bot, we're going to see. I don't know if we'll see it, but I think Tesla will make a lot more of them, even if this doesn't end up being the final version.
So I think you already probably know what I'm going to say, and probably my audience does too. I think that was the final version. That doesn't mean it
Hmm.
won't be iterated on, and
Yeah,
Tesla iterates. They've got
all the
full
time.
automotive. They got automobiles on the line, which they're making iterations to every single day. No car
Yeah.
does that. So making an iteration on a robot. I mean, give me a break. I did that with my plastic water bottles. I
Uh,
we think the mold down, send it down the street, have them make a little change in the mold, bring it back and reload it, in a few days.
mhm.
So I don't see with the robot is going to be any really serious problem with iterations as we go forward. I think
Yeah.
it's ready to go. I think they'll be making them if they're not already. I think they'll be making them in the first quarter.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the coin, and I'm going to skip around on our little outline here that I sent you, but
Hmm.
skip around for a second. There has been, and I read every headline that there is, period. There's like
Hmm.
I don't see during the day. There has been 4 articles so far about the Optimus bot. None of those have been major national online publications or traditional like Fortune or anything like that. They've been Tesla-Roddy and, that kind of stuff. Zero, none from that video. Not a single one in 2 days or a day and a half now, almost 2 days. There's a real rebellion. Talk about rebellion air. The traditional press has had it with Elon and X and Tesla and the whole thing. The horrible news, all the news has been about that recall, which was nonsense. Or the strike in Sweden, which is this much market, and yet, and probably not going to be successful. That's all you can see right now in the news. There's no positive news about the Cybertruck. It's just nutty out there right now. I think these guys have decided that, X is the competition. They've got to not give any press if they can avoid it.
Yeah. Tesla doesn't spend hundreds of millions on traditional media, so they're not going to carry water for Tesla. I remember a while back I exposed Consumer Reports and how they're funded. Their top 3 philanthropic partners are Ford Foundation and the Edward P. Sloan Foundation. Edward P. Sloan was the CEO of GM for 23 years.
Right.
And as soon as I put that out there, there were people who carry water for Detroit saying that these are independent, nonprofits, independent charities from Ford and from GM. And when I looked at these people responding to me as the Detroit Free Press, and we know who advertises with Detroit. So I think this is a symptom of that going on. Also, the media, they just generally don't want to talk about things that are positive.
That's true. Yes.
Although we got the good news.
Yeah, we got the good news, and so we have to do it on YouTube. Absolutely right. Well, okay. So here is my take for today. We have the NASDAQ down today. I think it ended in the red. We have the Dow, the S&P, and the Russell up. The Russell was up 2.5% today, and it's been up for the last 10 days. We have the Cathie Wood type stocks way up, 7%, 5%, 3%. We've got Tesla way up today, $12, I think it ended up, finally closing above 250 at around 251.5. And then we've got the Mag 7 mostly down, and even the Apple and Nvidia that were up, they were up just a little tiny bit. What do we need to see in your mind before we call this a rotation?
I'd want to see some continuation next week. So I read some different sources at times, and they said that today was a big short squeeze. So that there's a lot of buying in the most shorted names in the market. And, a lot of the names that ARK invests in aren't as high quality. So there's probably a good amount of short interest on those. We've seen with some of the names we own that are more heavily shorted, that those have gone up more. So what may have happened, and I'm curious if we see some follow through next week, is that hedge funds, they tend to glob together their ideas.
Yes.
And it's called the hedge fund hotel or whatever.
Right.
And what can happen is when they are following each other into a trade, when that trade ends, then they all scurry to get out of it.
Yeah.
And the Magnificent Seven has kind of been an obvious trade. So I'm guessing hedge funds have been long the Magnificent Seven, been shorting lower quality stocks. There are a lot of people who shorted ARK stocks just trying to
Sure.
like go against ARK. Um, so I would want to see it continue over next week before I call it like a trend. We happen to be long NVIDIA, full disclosure, not investment advice. And I think NVIDIA is greatly undervalued.
Uh-huh.
They're trading at about a 24 PE to Wall Street estimates
Yeah.
for their next fiscal year, and we think Wall Street's on the low side for their prediction for earnings.
Wow.
Um, so maybe we'll start to see more divergence in the Magnificent Seven. Um, yeah, and I'm curious to see what happens. I was very encouraged by today and yesterday, people reacting to the Fed, and um, maybe we could talk more about what Jay Powell was saying about the economy and employment, things like that.
We could. I just did a 45-minute earlier today with Larry where we went Larry Goldberg, where we went like step
You
by
did deep
step,
dive.
every question and answer and what we thought the implications that were. But let
Maybe
me
we could go just a little higher level.
go
So
ahead.
people ask Jerome Powell, does a strong economy make it hard for the Fed to get to the sweet spot? And Jerome Powell said yes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it'll totally get in the way. So I think there's like been this shift way over to the other side where you mentioned in the notes that there's now a 21% chance that rate cuts begin as soon as next month.
Right.
69% chance of rate cuts beginning in March 2024 or before. So it's like I think people have shifted to be like way too positive about the Fed cutting rates, and I mentioned this last week. So I wouldn't quite go there yet, but very encouraged by what we're seeing. The Fed seems pretty downbeat on the economy. The estimates for the fourth quarter are pretty low, only like 1.5% or so
And yet the retail,
on GDP growth.
and yet retail came in today. When you took
Mm-hmm.
away auto and energy, 6.6%
Mm-hmm.
over a month. So how's the economy gonna be bad? Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're good. I think economic growth should stay strong, and unless it was just like some kind of supply chain bounce back that we saw in Q3.
Right.
So I'm curious to see that, but I don't think we're going to get this like Armageddon that Elon fears.
No. I think we're past that. I don't know. You never know what comes out of left field. But if you look at, just connect the dots of the stats that we have to look at. So, like for instance, for Elon's benefit, for our benefit as Tesla stockholders, 10-year bond has dropped faster than any time in history, down 12. I think it was actually 12 basis. I put in my notes 10, but I think it was down 12 basis points today.
Mm-hmm.
And so the 2-year has started to follow. The ones in between the 2-year and the 10-year are all definitely, following the 10-year, but the 2-year is a little behind, but it's catching up. But the ones that are shorter term, they're not catching up. In fact, in the after hours, the pre-market tonight, some of those short-term ones, like the 2-month or the 1-month or the 3-month, those are actually positive tonight. So I'm wondering if you have a theory as to at what point those short-term bonds start to really play catch up. Is it when the folks that buy the 10 years are just exhausted the idea and they think that it's finally they're too expensive, and so they need how we go get these 2 months and 3 months and whatnot? What do you think?
It's almost like people are selling their short-term bonds and either buying stocks or buying the intermediate stuff, which I think somewhat makes sense. So it could just be something that corrects a bit over time. It doesn't need to happen all at once, but it's encouraging to see, such strong moves in the markets. People are reacting to the news, but I just I wouldn't get too hopeful about the Fed.
I see. So, but the Tesla, so the folks that are worried about Tesla's sales next year, if the interest rates come down, and I guess the mortgage rates are down almost a full 100 basis points now,
Yeah.
the high, maybe a little over 100 basis. I heard there's something might be in the high sixes now. There's obviously auto loans are going to come down, especially if some of these shorter term bonds start coming down more.
Mm-hmm.
If we have the interest rates come down on cars, we're going to see, and we know that there's a backlog of interest. People, the age of the fleet is like the oldest it's ever been. And even though cars last longer, at some point, people don't want a 20-year-old car, or they don't want a car. So all that being said, it would seem to bode well for 2024 in terms of the Model Ys and the Model 3s.
Yeah, the 10-year interest rate coming down, it helps the price of auto loans, and helps the price of mortgage loans as well. Despite the price cuts on the Model Y, the monthly payment had stayed the same. So I'm curious if maybe Tesla might be able to start to raise the price of the Model Y if auto loan rates come down enough. Yeah.
The other thing about 2024, somebody raised this the other day. I thought it was smart. I don't know if you've thought about this, is that if just the EV revolution continues in the United States, we need to add about 700, 800,000 cars just to keep that increase going. And nobody else can add those. There's no other maker who's going to provide any significant number towards that 700,000 other than Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
The capacity is
I worry the public's being brainwashed a little bit. This whole recall business.
Yeah.
2 million cars from 2012 to 2022. It sounds really bad. So it sounds like they recalled all their cars. And it was the autopilot recall. I'm curious how the public responds, once financial conditions are more favorable.
Well,
but I'm glad that Tesla's advertising. They're advertising at a small scale online, and testing different things, and measuring things to see what works and what doesn't.
Well, that was my take of the last 2 days, actually. My take was that yesterday those headlines hit, and people that are trading, and maybe they don't have time to read the whole article, maybe they don't have the time to think it through, and then the next day, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, this is just an over-the-air update, and now they're back in the market, taking advantage of the fact that Tesla didn't move yesterday like it should have. I mean, if you've got interest rates dropping like that, and you've got Powell talking the way he's talking, Tesla should have been up 6 of those points yesterday and another 6. That would be my theory anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So then markets now see a 21% chance that rate cut. Oh, we already talked about that. I'm gonna just go over that same note again. How's that? So what about retail sales? This is kind of surprising. I don't think anybody expected to see retail sales for stuff outside of cars and energy up 0.6% for the month, 7.2% annualized. Now the Christmas expectations are 3 to 4% increase over last year. And some people are saying it's the savings at the gas pump. They're freeing up the cash to go spend it at Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah. What? I don't think we need to explain everything though. Like,
we don't.
There's an explanation for everything. Yeah. Talking with a client today, they said that they've been spending a little more money because they didn't spend as much during the pandemic.
Ah, interesting.
So there could be some of that going on too. But there I went. I just created an explanation for it, right?
All right. So all year long, I've been saying no recession, no recession, no recession. I'm talking about before the year began when everybody said there was going to be a recession. I said there was no recession. And my theory on that has more to do with the labor market than anything else. I'm probably more in touch with the labor market because I have clients who own businesses and I've owned my own businesses, and I have over the last 16 years, 400 clients in very small businesses. And so I hear them on the phone ragging to me about the fact they can't find anybody. There's like nobody available. And then I'm always forget NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, came out again this month, 2 months in a row now, saying they have no need for cash. The thing they need is employees. They're not worried about loans. They're not worried about getting 2%. Were worried about getting a good loan. Most of them were concerned still about inflation. And number two was, I can't find quality employees at all. So as long as those small businessmen keep telling me they can't find quality employees, that tells me everybody that wants to be employed is employed. And as long as that's true, I don't see how we could ever have a recession.
Yeah, the consensus coming into this year was about recession, and I was with you. We've never had a recession where there's not a ton of joblessness. So it didn't make sense to me either. I thought the biggest risk was in March when we had problems with Silicon Valley Bank and the other bank, where they had issues with the crypto and the VC money. That was the biggest threat, and the federal government did step in pretty forcefully to prevent more issues. There are a number of banks who were able to trade in billions of dollars of bonds to the FDIC or to the Fed, and kind of like let them hang on to those bonds. And if they weren't able to do that, there was going to be serious pressure on them. So that was a huge thing that happened earlier this year. But like absent that, really there wasn't much of a threat beyond rates to the economy. And it feels today like we might get this Pollyanna, or might get this great Goldilocks, the right term. Might get this Goldilocks result where we don't have a recession, coming out of these high rates. So I'm feeling like things are good, and I'm curious to see how like the real economic numbers turn out for this fourth quarter. I think businesses are getting a lot of value from AI, and I'd be shocked if suddenly economic growth reverted to like 1.4% or something.
I hear you. So there's a lot of conversation right now about the slanted news of last week, but also about the administration bias against Elon. The U.S., from the top down, being negative towards Elon and all of his enterprises. Do you have a dog in that hunt? Are you? Is that an interesting conversation for you, or what do you think?
Yeah, what we found out this week, and we kind of already knew, is like the government structures some kind of subsidy or program, and typically there's an intended recipient for those dollars. I don't know if it was like Verizon or Sprint or some other companies, and so there's this rural broadband internet that they've been trying to get internet to people in rural America, helping them with education and information for their businesses. And all of a sudden Elon Musk with SpaceX and Starlinks come in and given them a solution that's much less expensive, and the federal government rewrote the rules just to like take a SpaceX out of it, even though SpaceX has by far the lowest cost solution.
Right.
and probably like the highest, highest speed and lowest latency, like so like the
And the
lowest cost and the highest performance.
right.
So it's rather ridiculous, what they're doing with Elon. And what else have they done recently to slow
Well, it's
Elon
just
down?
it's the combination. You have your what do you call it? Even these the energy stations are the the
Like, yeah, forcing that they
forcing.
wanted to try to force Tesla to put credit card readers on the superchargers. This past winter, so the winter before this, I tried to get air in my tires, and it was like one of the coldest days. It was below 0 Fahrenheit,
Yeah,
and they had these credit card readers on the air pumps where it wasn't free. You had to pay a small amount, and the readers didn't work. So then, like, I couldn't put air in my tire. So you're just creating this point of failure where it doesn't need to be. It can be on an app. Yeah. So um, they're putting, different rules on them. We also see different countries where Germany is stopping their EV incentive. So like,
right.
oh, Tesla is finally mass producing cars in Germany. German made electric vehicles with German employees and all that stuff. And now that Tesla can do it and offer that, then they're taking away the program.
Yeah,
We've seen Canada change the rules. We've seen Korea change the rules when they don't get the intended recipient of those dollars. Yeah, it's disappointing, but it's something that I expect from government. And I'd say like the craziest thing about it is if you're a business and you have the ability to lobby government, you can put in $1 and the government gives you either $100 or $1,000 back.
heck, for your lobbying. Yeah,
Yeah, there's been cases where a company has spent like $1 million lobbying for something and it's gotten like 600, $700 million contract from like city of Baltimore or whatever it was. I'm forgetting, but
sure. Actually, Tesla got a pretty nice number today. The Mexican government is giving them 153 million for
well,
their.
tell me about that.
That was just came out. I don't know any of the details. Sawyer Merritt was just reporting it, but there's some kind of a grant that they're going to get from the Mexican government, 153 million to help with what they're doing down there in Mexico. I didn't know that the Mexican government had 153 million.
I've been suspicious about the Mexico plant, and ever since that governor started going around the gigafactories all over the world, I've been suspicious about it. And what we know from most governments is like they're gonna try and extract donations. They're gonna try and extract tolls, and Elon and Tesla, they don't want to go down that route. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing like that's what slowed the process down. But then like as soon as Tesla started negotiating in public and said, "Oh, we'll just start it in Texas," and then now that it's approved, probably Tesla's like, "Well, we're gonna figure it out in Texas first."
Yeah.
So now that was messaged, now we're hearing about this. Maybe
100.
it's a tax break or incentive or grant to get started in Mexico. So I'd say Elon won that one.
Sounds like it. so, so of course, as co-host, you may remember that the last thing we do in the show is we take a look at the market's numbers, where we are right now in the pre-market on Thursday night, in order to make sure that it's still good news. But I thought before we did that, you had told us last week you had breaking news. You sent me the video on the breaking news. Has that gone public yet? Has that video gone to everybody?
Yeah, we posted some original research on a company called Bloom Energy,
Okay.
and literally nearly no one has watched it, and that's totally
Nobody's watched
fine.
it.
That's totally fine. Typically in investing, you want to own companies that are, you know, misunderstood or controversial in some way. And I believe Tesla is still one of those companies. Nvidia, you know, a lot of people say Nvidia is overpriced. You know, Bloom Energy, it solves a lot of problems with the grid. So Elon's talking about an impending, hang on a sec. Sorry about that.
Okay. It's live.
Yeah, Elon's talking about an impending shortage of electricity. He's talked about the transformer problem. So my brother's trying to call me right now.
I see.
The other thing that we know just from our study of megapacks is that there's this big delay for people for power users to get connected to the grid. So there's like this interconnect queue, and this whole study has to be done to connect to the grid, and you got to make sure everything's all good with the grid and that the right equipment's on the grid and all that. That queue process has gone from 2 years to 4 to 5 years. So if you're a new big user of power, whether you're a hospital, a factory, or an AI data center, that's unacceptable. So now you're faced with making your own power. Okay. And Bloom Energy has what's called a natural gas fuel cell. You can use other fuels in it, and you can essentially make power from the natural gas without combusting it in this fuel cell. I'm not a scientist. I don't understand it, but it does work. They've been in business for 20 years. It's not a Theranos fake thing or anything.
Right.
But so, you know, we think there's an opportunity there, and we believe they're shifting from losses in the past to being able to make a profit next year.
Okay. And
there's a big split on Wall Street about it. So there's quite a wide range of estimates, the analysts, and I think that's a good situation. And the fact that like no one seems interested in the story, you probably just lost a ton of a ton of views
because nobody's interested in the story.
This spot in it, but that's something that tells me we may be in the right place.
All right. Well, we'll put a link to your video down below just in case there was 3 people that are interested in. No, listen, I watched most of the video. It's an extremely interesting video. Even if a person was not interested in investing in Bloom, I think it was a super interesting video in terms of our continuing understanding of the entire electrification issue. What we're looking at going forward. So I highly recommend people take a look at that video. So the markets and by the way, I should also
and the other part, like with the transformers, is like when you're making your own power, as long as you can get the right frequency, you don't need as much of a step down transformer. So like, you know, this super high voltage on the grid, and it's coming toward your facility, and then you need this big step down transformer. Right. There's a step down transformer in Lathrop near their casting facility that they have.
Right.
So, you know, if you don't need a transformer, you don't have to wait for the transformer.
Yes.
So the main thing you're waiting for is an air permit. So it does release CO2, but it's a cleaner CO2. There's not much of the fine particulate matter.
All right. Again, I will post that down below. And then people should also check you out on rebellionaire.com. Rebellionaire.com.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. So what we have right now is we got Tesla down a whole 30 cents in the pre-market. So they're holding on to their gains from today. Was up actually, it was actually 1176, ending at 251.05. So it was a very good day. And here's Reuters reporting on the Mexico Nuevo Leon state gives Tesla 153 million. There it is right there. All right, let's take a look at the other numbers here. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. So let's start with the bonds, which is always my favorite place to start until they're not. Right now, the bonds have been in control. I'm looking forward to the day when we no longer think that bonds are controlling everything. But for the last at least 2 years, bonds seem to be in control. All right, so let's look at bonds, and they are in the pre-market. So it got it up slightly, 2 basis points, but we're still sitting at 3.954. And that's on the 10-year. And it was as low, I think, as 3.77, I think, this morning.
Wow.
There is zero, absolutely nothing technically, other than maybe some 20-year whatever they call those things, moving averages or whatever. But in terms of the way it went up, there is nothing from going back to 3.25. So it's strictly going to be a matter of what people are willing to pay for these bonds based on inflation and all the other things. But there is nothing. It's just the curve goes like this, and then it comes back down like this.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. All right, let me look at the other two. You've got the oh shoot, I really blew that. I'm hitting my
and in a way, like, this is a good thing. So like Jay Powell got a question. He's like, well, the market started to tighten ahead of the Fed.
Yeah.
And so the market was kind of doing the work of the Fed, and now the market's doing loosening ahead of the Fed loosening.
Yes, indeed. So just like I said earlier, the 2-month is actually still up 3.5 basis points. It just makes me crazy. Anyway, the 2-year is up only 0.14. So there has been the inversion has been shrinking a little bit this last week. It's not as bad as it had been previously, but one guy, I wish I can remember who it was, suggested he thinks the inversion will completely reverse in the first quarter. What do you think about that?
I have no idea. I'm not a bond person.
Okay, all right, okay.
That's above my pay grade.
Above your pay grade.
I am an asset allocator. I do that in addition to some stock picking and fund selection, but
because you do go into bonds. You guys do purchase bonds for your clients.
We buy bond funds, yeah.
Okay. All right, and then just a second here, the oil. So oil is still sitting at about 71.5. So it's up from the lows, but obviously oil and all the commodities are dollar denominated. So what I'm reading is most of this increase would be based on the dollar having gone down so much over the last couple of days because of the interest rates coming down so much.
Okay.
All right. Okay. And then natural gas, I did a deep dive on natural gas today. It's up a little bit in the pre-market, like 2 cents, which is 1% though. Natural gas, apparently we are now producing record amounts of natural gas in the United States and exporting record amounts. And so far it's been a mild winter. So that's what we're seeing probably in terms of why natural gas is very close to all-time lows. But that's also good for the inflationary situation, obviously.
Bloom Energy, they benefit from low natural gas prices.
Yeah, there you go.
And like around this level, they have this power purchase agreements that they can do as a different financial arrangement. It's around 10 cents a kilowatt hour or less.
Wow.
What they're offering. Yeah, so Bloom is like they're in competition with the utilities. You know how the utilities want to raise prices every year?
Yes.
Bloom's trying to work against that, and natural gas is helping.
Now, interesting. So what I'm seeing a little bit in the pre-market right now is a little bit of a reversal of what took place the last 2 days. So, things always, they get out too far, and then you start to see things reverse. So copper's actually down, silver's down. So commodities that you might expect to be up right now because of the dollar being down are now reversing a little bit. And the dollar itself is still a little shaky right now. So, and then Bitcoin up 171 in the pre-market, is sitting almost at 43. Do you follow Bitcoin? Do you get involved in Bitcoin? Do you have any thoughts on Bitcoin?
No.
I don't either. I don't either. All right. I just always report it because I know people want to know. Okay, finally, we got the U.S. futures on the Dow up 0.43% or 158 points. We got the S&P up 12. I'm going to double check this. I've got the wrong thing here. I always put it next door to each other, and sometimes you miss out. Okay, it is flat. We don't even have to talk about the numbers because all three are like no change. I mean, it's $3, $1, $9.50. So all three pretty much flat right now. So going into tomorrow, I think the rally continues.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing in this pre-market or extended hours is people feeling like they may have missed the top and are wanting to trim. But I think tomorrow it's going to be like kind of the 3-day rule. So I wouldn't be surprised to have a continuation where people are they're just too low on the risk side. They don't have enough stocks or whatever. They've taken money off the table for one reason or the other, and they've kind of like been slow to react, and they'll FOMO, and we may see like a bit of a 3-day rule. I'm curious to see if it continues much past like Monday morning.
Yeah, and then we'll be going into the week before Christmas, and sometimes there's the closer we get to Christmas, we see people starting on vacations and whatnot, and so there's. What do you usually think in terms of the year end? Do you usually plan differently during the last 2 weeks of the year? Or?
People will do some tax loss selling. I think that can be risky. If you're trying to buy back the same exact thing and
January,
the thing you try to, let's say you sell something and you buy something like that's similar.
Yeah.
The risk is like 30 days from now when you want to flip back to the thing you really want to own that you're not able to buy in at the same price that you sold. I think sometimes tax loss selling is a bit overblown, the benefit.
Yeah.
Because like the long-term capital gain ends up being the same.
Yeah. And of course, the other big thing is window dressing. So the funds will all be trying to window dress their to make sure that they're in the right stocks at the end of the year. So I guess all of that plays out. And in addition to the fact that there's a lot of traders are on vacation.
So far, they've avoided buying Tesla as a window dressing this year, though.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, all right. So I have my work cut out for me getting to 300 by the end of the year. By the way, I keep telling my audience that is a soft guess. That is not my hard guess. It's not my okay, that's for sure. My all-time high at the end of January, that's the one that I want to be judged on. Mm-hmm. But not the end of the year. 300 at the end of the year is, I think, fairly likely based on this new bull, the bull now continuing. But the all-time high after the meeting, after the earnings meeting, that's the one. Again, as I always say, but judge me on the content of my analysis, not on the actual final number.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All right. So, Bradford, any last thoughts about the market today, the market tomorrow, or Tesla in general? Any last thoughts?
I think we've hit it, but Tesla bot, I'm excited about. It's on the same pace that I expected. I am surprised they added so many sensors, but I'm guessing that doesn't add to lag. So that was my concern with them adding more sensors, me not really understanding how it all works. But I think it's really exciting. And that if they can get a hand that is precise and dexterous, a, a hand that can already, move an egg from one hand to another. Like that's a very, very hard problem to solve in robotics. The amount of, if you put too much force on that egg, you squish the egg.
Yeah.
And it gives me actually a lot of hope. Like I haven't allowed myself to get emotional about it, but you think about Tesla bot, eventually these robots could be caring for us in nursing homes. And
Yes.
maybe you need two of them to help us, help lift you up out of bed or whatever. But um, the amount of precision and the sensory precision that it has makes me confident that it's going to be able to work with humans in a way, in a caretaking way. We might actually be able to get it to be able to fold our clothes.
Hey.
Yeah, I was thinking the mistake that Tesla made with, and this was Elon, like trying to over automate for Model 3. And what's hard is seats and wiring harnesses.
Right, right. And he solved
You,
it.
you have this big wrangly thing, and the Tesla bot may be able to manufacture the wiring harnesses.
Right, right. Yes.
So it may get wild pretty quick here. We'll see.
I was particularly excited that it now can move its neck in two directions because it just makes it look so much more human.
Uh-huh.
So
That's
I don't know
true.
that it gives it any advantages other than making it just look so much more human. Anyway,
I
well,
think it gives it a training advantage potentially. Like if the person wearing a suit where they're capturing emotion and the activity
yeah,
for the bot, and the trainers would move their heads,
yeah,
and so you need the bot to be able to move its head a bit, so that all works together.
got it, got it. Hey, Bradford, as always, thank you for co-hosting on Good News Thursday, and we'll look forward to what happens with Bloom Energy. We'll look forward to what happens with Tesla, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody should go and check out Rebellionaire for. I want to say Teslainaire because I've been saying that so long, and they should look up Rebellionaire for sure. All right, and to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.
Bye.